Good morning, artists. Welcome to the studio. My name is Allison Jensen, and I am the owner of Orange Easel School of Art. I've got my camera propped up very precariously, trying to get it above me so you can see what I'm doing down here this morning. We'll hope that it doesn't all come crashing down. If it does, I promise I'll be right back. So, I hope you're excited for this. This is my type of drawing today, and we are going to do some Tangle Patterns, or some Doodle drawing, that uses some fine Sharpie markers and just some amazing, intricate little patterns. So, if you've got some older elementary, middle school, high school kids at home, they will love this. Have them tune into this video. I'm going to talk directly to them. The things that you're going to need today, you're going to need a fine point Sharpie. Now you can do this with really any, like if you want to do it with a ballpoint pen, because that's what you got, do it. If you got a pencil, you can do it. But my favorite tool for the job is either a fine point Sharpie, so something like this. Show it to my camera. So it's not the big fat ones, which I have around here somewhere too. It's the fine points. And then if you really get into this type of drawing, you're going to want to invest in a set of these micron pens. They are archival ink, so they're gonna last for a long time. And then the coolest thing about them really is that they come in different widths, which you don't think once you get this fine that you can get different widths. And they're numbered. So like this is an 08. And so you can see that one compared to something like, where's my skinniest? There's my skinniest. Can you see the difference between those two markers? And we'll use them here on the paper so that way you can see the difference as far as how the marks go on the paper. But that gives you a different weight of line, and it's going to help your drawing just kind of mature a little bit. So these are really great. If you get into this type of drawing, it's a great gift for kids who love this type of drawing, whether they're into cartooning, they're into manga, they're into any kind of pen and ink drawing, so like the pattern drawing or the Zentangles. These are great. And you can get them at Michael's, or Hobby Lobby. They're usually by all the art supplies, so they're going to be in, like by the Prismacolors, and by all the markers and the Sharpies, you'll find microns, and they're great little drawing pens. So those are fantastic. Now, everybody know what we're doing? Do you know what I mean when I say pattern drawing? I'm going to give you some examples. So this was the kind of the beginning, as far as I know, of pattern drawing, was this brand here. It's called Zentangles. And a true Zentangle artist uses only true Zentangle patterns. And so in order to call something a Zentangle, you're using only approved Zentangle, this is a trademark, you're using only these approved patterns and in the way that they outline it. It's a meditative drawing practice. There's fantastic resources on it. There are instructors who are certified to teach this, and it is a wonderful brand and program. So if you're interested in that, check out a book, because we're not going to be doing that today. I am not a licensed Zentangle artist. I'm just an artist, and I love patterns. And so these that we're going to do today are inspired by different patterns that you can find anywhere. I mean, Zentangle didn't invent patterns. They just put them together into a brand, and then they have certain patterns that they always use. Now, as far as how to use these, there's so many different ways to do it. True Zentangles do them on tiles, and they've got rules, for lack of a better word, or guidelines based on how big those tiles can be and how you construct your tangle design. So we're not going to follow those. You can look into those if you want to. We're going to use ours a little bit more freer. I'm going to go over a couple patterns on some practice paper, and then we're actually going to do a finished artwork together. So we'll do a finished doodle drawing here on some 6x6 paper. Generally speaking, you're going to work small. I'm going to show you some big examples, okay? But this one here, this is a Tangle design. It's an abstract one, so it covers my face when I do that. Let me go over here. It is an abstract design, right? So it's not really a picture of anything. It's more geometric. And all I did was divide my paper. This one's one of mine. I divided my paper in concentric circles with a pencil, and then just started filling each individual space with a different pattern. And I didn't have a plan for it necessarily. Just when I had a space to fill, I started putting different patterns in those spaces. This is about an 8-hour project. This is not a quick drawing. It's something I came and went back from. So when you work bigger, plan on spending a lot of time on something like that, which is why I always encourage people to work small. Work small. Unless you have a really grand idea in mind, start small so you don't get frustrated and feel like, oh my gosh, I'm never going to finish this. I want to show you a piece of artwork by one of our artists that comes to the studio, and it was in our art show last fall. This is by Miss Kessa Woosley, and she is an amazing artist. And this is one of her pieces, and I bought it from her, so it's now mine. I own it. But it's an elephant that's in the style of these tangle patterns, and you can see the weight of her outside line of her elephant. It's a heavier weight line than all the pattern on the inside of the elephant, and that's how you get that shape. So traditional Zentangle would not go for this. This is not something that they would do in that, but we can use these patterns to fill different spaces in the drawing that we're going to do. So should we look at some patterns? Let's do some. I've got some teeny tiny little papers that I'm going to use to practice on, and you can either practice on little papers or you can take a big sheet of paper and actually divide it into squares to kind of practice some of your patterns. But I'm going to use little ones because I feel like it's less busy for you to actually watch. Now, where you get your patterns from. Some of them are going to come from your brain, right? Because you can make up your own patterns. You guys are smart and you're great artists. So if you have an idea in your brain and you want to doodle your own pattern, maybe that's what you normally doodle when you're in class or when you're on the phone with somebody and you're doodling and you have your own little signature pattern. That's a fantastic thing to hold on to and incorporate into your artwork. Other times you can look at other people's artwork and see different patterns and then steal them and use them into your artwork. There are some amazing resources on the internet, and we've put together a pretty comprehensive, at least for a start anyway, Pinterest board where you can go and find all sorts of different patterns and you can print them off. These are some that I printed off of our Pinterest board. You can see there's a whole sheet of different patterns. So if you like any of those, okay. When I start pattern drawing, sometimes I will reference my different sheets, and then eventually you build up a library in your brain that you don't have to go to those sheets unless you're kind of stuck on what should I fill in this spot, right? But the more you do it and the more patterns that you use, you'll fill up a library in your brain, and you won't have to use the sheets necessarily just to be able to do a drawing. You'll just use them maybe for some new stuff. All right. So let's get started on down here. I'm going to take my camera, I'm going to tip it down, and with any luck, it's not going to fall. We shall see, shall we? Let's do it. Ooh, hey. No crashing yet. I got to bend down in order for you to see me, but at least you can see my little piece of paper here. So this is my little teeny tiny tile, okay? And I've got it here. I wonder if I can zoom. Oh, look at that. Look at that. I can zoom in. Yeah, put it right here. Then you can see it, move my microphone cord. I'll start with a Sharpie marker because that's what I had you guys using. And that's probably what you have at home is a Sharpie. And we're going to do a very simple pattern. I'm going to do one that covers my whole paper in kind of a checkerboard pattern. Let me show you which one it is. We're going to do this one right here. Okay, so this pattern right here that I'm pointing to. And if you're following along at home, grab your Sharpie marker, grab a sheet of paper. It doesn't have to be this size. If you don't have one that size, grab any sheet of paper you have and take it and draw me a small box. Okay, and you can work inside that small box. Don't try to fill a whole page because you'll drive yourself crazy. Small box, like 2 inches, 3 inches. I believe this is a 3-inch sheet of paper. So I got my 3-inch sheet of paper and I'm going to draw this fun little pattern. And step 1 for this pattern, let me make sure I keep it where you can see it. Step 1 for this pattern is going to be to start at the top of my page. I'm going to divide it into 4 different sections. So the first line I'm going to make is from the top down, and it's going to be slightly wavy. Now, one of the trademarks of this type of drawing is that we're not going to worry about using a ruler and making it perfectly straight. We're going to do the best we can with just freehanding, and we're going to learn to control our own hands. So if you're stressed about having straight lines, we'll talk about that more when we get to one that has straight lines. Fortunately, this one's a wavy line. I will tell you, one of the best ways to control your line is to put the marker away from you and pull it into your body. You'll always have better control that direction. So we go down and we have a nice little wavy line. If you're concerned, which I'm not because this is my desk, but if you're concerned as we're rolling that permanent marker off the paper, if you're at home on your dining room table, please cover that surface with something so that mom doesn't get mad at me, okay? So there's our first line. Our second line does the same thing. It's going to split these two sides, and it's going to come down as well. Just a very basic wavy line, and then we'll come down right here. All right? Now, like I said, in order to control the line, we start at the top and we pull into our body. We're going to turn the paper and do the same thing, as opposed to trying to go sideways. So I turn the paper. That's one of the other benefits of working small. And we're going to do the exact same thing, only this time we're going to curve this way. And my hand naturally wants to arc this way, so that's a very natural motion for it as a right-handed person. So I do that. And then I come over here and I'm going to do it again. Split this side, come straight down. If you need it, some people find it useful to plot their points. So they'll give themselves a starting point, they'll give themselves an ending point. And that helps them to plan out where that line's going to go. All right, so here is our finished step one. Looks like that. All right, pattern drawing is so much fun. Okay, so we'll turn it back around to where we started it. So it's got the wavy-ish lines here from the top facing vertically. And then we're gonna add some interior lines into our checkerboard. So this one in particular goes from this corner to this corner of each one of these boxes. So I'm going to take my marker, it's an arced line, and it goes like that. Slide it back so everyone can see it. We'll go from this corner on over. And you want to get the arc in there as best you can. We don't want it to be a straight diagonal line. That's a different pattern. So we get the other thing to pay attention in your patterns, starting and ending points matter. So we want to be cognizant of where our marker ends on a line. We don't want it to cross the line, and we don't want it to stop short of a line. So for instance, let me see if I can get it close to the camera and I'll point, for example. And this is one of the disadvantages of a Sharpie versus the microns. You'll see my marker bled a little bit here on my paper. But I make sure that I start here and I end down here. I don't cross into here and I don't stop short. That clean ending and that clean starting will make a big difference in your drawing. It's not something to stress about, it's just something to be aware of and something to work on as you get better at your drawings. All right, I got a couple more to do, and then we're going to talk about what to do with these ones on the edges, right? So all the way down. Okay, so this top edge right here, right? This top edge is not a complete box. And so it only has the bottom part of here, and it's just, so we're going to come up from the bottom and give us just a little bit of an arc just to continue that pattern. We want it to run off the page. So if you noticed, let's give a good example here. In this example that I showed earlier, all of the patterns, they completely fill the spaces that they're working in. They don't just fill the middle, they fill all the way to the edge. Almost like you were to take a piece of patterned scrapbook paper or patterned fabric and glue it down into a collage form. It would fill all the way to the edge. It wouldn't stop perfectly. You'd have some that have half designs, right, on there. Okay. So this one here, let's keep going. The next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna add a bubble inside, like an eyeball almost, inside the corner right up top here, if you're following along. So you're gonna make just a circle in each of these corners. Now, I'm gonna give you a hint. While you guys are doing that, let me talk to you about this. We're gonna make a circle, and if you remember our design, we're gonna end up coloring in this area, and the bubble is gonna stay white. So, your bubble is going to look smaller when we color in that area around it. And the reason is because the outline of the bubble that we just drew becomes part of the background once I fill it in. So you want to draw it just a little bit bigger than you think you actually want it to be. Okay, that's one of the tricks. So we're going to keep going. Let me get all my bubbles drawn. Bubble, bubble, bubble. And this is a very simple pattern. If you had a more intricate one, you could switch markers, you could do all sorts of things. So you can switch to a thinner marker if you needed to, but this is one that we can draw with all ones. And we don't have any bubbles in the top row, right? Because they're way up here, they're off the page. Okay, and we have little half bubbles over here on this side. Okay, so the very last step, if we're looking at our cheat sheet here, right? The very last step is going to be to fill in all the areas here with a black marker. And this is a coloring exercise. And I am not going to have you watch me color all these, but I'm going to color one of them. But you don't want to sit here and watch me color all these patterns. You want to move on. If you're watching this at home and you're following along with the live video, you can move on with me when I move on, or you can keep on going, and don't worry, this will be a replay on our Facebook page, so you'll be able to catch back up. If you're catching the replay, you can actually just hit the pause button if you want to, and we'll be here when you get done. All right, so see, there's 2 of them done for you. Cool? Everybody get that pattern? All right, so that's pattern number 1. Again, these are just little practice sheets. It's good to build up your library of different practices. And let's do another one. We'll do another little practice, and then we'll move on to a final one. Okay, so here's one more little blank square. We'll set this one off to the side, and let's pick another really fun one to do, shall we? I want to do one that uses straight lines. Shall we? Let's do a straight line one. Okay, so some of you, this is really going to bother. We're going to do straight lines without a ruler. You can do it, okay? Now, perfection ain't going to happen. Like, I had a lot of coffee this morning, so my hands are probably shaky. It's okay. I'll give you some tricks, all right? So this is going to be the same way. We're going to divide it in half, and then we're going to divide each of our halves in halves. We'll flip the paper half, half, half. The difference is we're going to do this in straight lines instead of wavy lines. So we start at the top. I'm going to plot my points this time, so I'm going to plot at the top. I'm going to plot the midsection of the bottom. I'm going to put my marker down. I'm going to exhale out when I pull back. And I'm going to pull with my whole arm. I'm not going to pull with my hand. I'm going to try not to move my wrist. And my arm is what pulls straight back. Some people will find this easier to do from a standing position. Okay, and actually, you know what? We're gonna simplify it so that you guys aren't bored with me. Let's just do 4 quadrants. All right. So we'll take this from here, flip it over. Let's bisect this one. So again, plot it here. Take a deep breath. Exhale out. Didn't know you were gonna get like a little exercise going on here, right? And we pull back. Is it perfect? Absolutely not. But that's why it's a doodle drawing. Okay. So here is my little cross section here. Cool? All right. Oh, how's everybody doing? Y'all doing okay? Nobody's falling asleep yet? Okay. Let's do it anyway. See, this is why you're supposed to plan live videos before you start them. La da 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 da. But I was too busy trying to get my camera to not fall off that setup that I have going on here. All right, straight back with this one. I lied, guys. We're going to do a few more quadrants. I changed my pattern midway, which I can do.
All right, just knock on the door when you're ready to come back.
Here we go. Can you hear my Mom's Morning Out crew? They're in there. I think we have 13 kids here this morning for Mom's Morning Out. All right. So I did go ahead and bisect these. We're going to work in the cross sections here. So we're going to work in that one, that one, that one, and that one. Okay. So starting at this point right here, we're going to do radiating petals. Okay, so it's going to radiate out.
All right.
Looks like this. So this is my petal. Slide it back so you guys can see. It's my petal. It's going to come out. Like that. I've got 4 of those radiating out from that center point. Okay, I like to turn my paper as I work because my hand likes to make this motion. Doesn't like to make all the other ones, but it really likes this one. My wrist naturally goes that way. So there's one petal. So if you're following along, make sure you got that one. And we're going to do the same thing here, here, and here on these center points. This one's a little bit more intricate than the other one that we did. Because really we made a checkerboard pattern and then we're making another pattern inside the checkerboard, right? If I were doing this at home, I would be doing it a lot more slowly, but I feel the need to hurry up because I don't want to have you guys waiting on me. Again, if you're following along and you need to hit pause, please go right ahead and do that. All right, we got almost done with number 3 here. We're going to add a background to each one of these so that way they kind of pop off the page. Come down. These types of designs have gained a lot of popularity. It seems like in the last couple of years with the popularity of the adult coloring books, right, that we've started seeing all over the place. There you go. Okay, so we could stop here, and that's a wonderful little pattern. We're actually going to add something to it. We're going to add some diamonds behind each one of these little flower designs. And so from the middle of each of these flowers, we're going to draw a line through it. Just it kind of goes behind it. So corner to corner, but not through the petal. So let me show you what it looks like. We're going to go corner to corner, corner to corner, corner to corner. So we've got a diamond shape behind that flower. We're going to do a diamond shape behind each one of these. Once we get really crazy with the lines, which is exactly what we're going to do here, and all of these lines have the same weight to them, the design starts to look a little dizzying, kind of like an optical illusion. It's not real pleasing to look at because your eye can't figure out exactly what it's supposed to focus on. So it's nice at that point, if you're starting to get that effect in your drawing, to add a little bit of shadow to it. And that's exactly what we're going to do. Once we get all the lines on here, we'll add a dark spot, which gives your eye something to focus on and lends a little bit of balance to the drawing. That's what this one did, right? When we did this one and we added that dark shadow in there, it gave us something to focus on and gave us some contrast. So we'll do the same thing to this design, just bear with me. All right, again, we can stop here, but we're going to keep on going. We're actually going to add 2 more lines inside these diamonds. They're exactly the same on the same plane as the diagonal line we just drew, except they're going to be inside it. So it looks like, let me get it in the right spot. There we go. It looks like this. We go right here, and then we go right here. Hold it up so you can see what I just did. Okay. And what this is going to do is it's going to give me these concentric looking square shapes behind the flower petals. All right, so it almost looks like I just went and drew squares in there. I really didn't. I drew itty bitty lines that connected with our bisecting first lines that we drew. All right, let me finish these. It'll only take me a second. Bear with me. When you do these, you want to make sure that your lines meet up at the corners, right? So we're doing them as we go around each flower petal, because if you don't, then they won't meet. It won't look like squares, it'll just look like stripes. Also cool. There's no real way to mess this up. You can just change your pattern if you need to. Okay. One more to do. You guys are a good crowd. How's your design looking at home? Are you guys doing okay? I've got the comments on, so if you're stuck or if you're confused, you can comment, and I will be happy to do my best to show something here on camera. So here we go. Again, we could stop now. It almost looks like a really fun tile backsplash that you would have someplace. But we're going to keep going. One more, ready? And that is to add that shadow. I'm going to do it on the very inside diamond. We're going to color that one in. I'm going to color it in with my marker. Just to kind of make those petals pop out. My coloring tends to be kind of scribbled. If you like a more opaque, because I use a cross hatching where they're like little lines that fill the space. If you want to actually color it in with an opaque black, you can do that. One more. I'll show you what it looks like. Whoop, that one's kind of messy. So that is my finished pattern there. Other things that you could do with this if you wanted to continue to add something to it, right? We could add circles inside the petals. We could add shadows inside one of these stripes. So you could do a shadowy line. The way you make a shadow with pen and ink, right? Because unlike a pencil, the way you make a shadow is to lighten up the pressure, and that makes it a lighter color as opposed to pushing really hard on it. But you don't get that with a marker. It doesn't matter how hard you push, you're going to get the same value coming out of the pen. So the way you make a shadow with a pen is by putting lines instead of coloring. And so the further apart the lines are, that's called cross-hatching. The further apart the lines are, the lighter the shadow appears to the eye. It's an optical illusion. And if you notice in like comics and different things, that's what they use. So if I take this and I actually fill this one, let me do it really quick. This is my outside square on this top corner. If I fill it with vertical stripes with a little bit of white space in between them, they will look like it's been shaded here as opposed to colored in. So when we get up really close, you can see it's actually vertical lines, but further away, it's just a nice little shadow. I'm going to add some contrast to that. And I could finish that here. Other things I could do, one of my favorite patterns is like a bubble pattern. So you come in here and you make circles and you actually fill a space with different sized bubbles. And that's a fun one. It almost looks like a gravel driveway or a pebbled driveway if you use the different sizes. So something like that. You can fill that one in, and we could keep going. I mean, you can fill every space that's a white space in pattern inside pattern, and there's no wrong way to do it. So I encourage you to kind of play with that and keep on doodling. Again, as you build up that library of patterns, the more that you learn patterns and practice patterns and do patterns, you build up a library of them in your brain, and then you don't have to look at pattern sheets for inspiration. You won't be stuck. You've got them already in your brain. So let's do a picture. You want to do a picture? I'm going to pull out, this is a 6x6 sheet of paper, and that is as big as I would encourage you to work. And if you've got a bigger sheet of paper, go ahead and do it and just maybe fold it in half or take a quick pair of scissors to it or give yourself a border on it to work inside so that way you've got it. And I'm going to pull this back closer to me so that it's inside the camera, and we're going to draw a flower design. And we're going to actually make maybe 2 flowers in here, and then we'll fill each petal with a different pattern, and I think that'll be kind of fun. So for the start, we're going to draw the stems going up and the circle centers. This is a very abstract, simple flower design. And because I don't want to take my pen up, right, I'm actually going to pull from the top for the stem because I'm more comfortable doing that for a straight line. So we're going to pull from the top down for one stem and from the top down for another stem, and I've got one a little crooked, and I'm cool with that. Okay, let's give ourselves a center of our flower. I'm going to put it up here because we'll draw some fun petals. So I'll draw a center here and then maybe a center here, and we'll radiate out as we get going. Okay, different patterns, and if you want to follow along and do my patterns, you want to follow along and do mine but then add yours, by all means, you go right ahead. Some people will work from the beginning out, some people will work all the way out and then come back in with pattern, which is how I'm going to do it because I think that that'll work better for you guys. So it's really what works best for you. So I'm going to fill this with pattern here in the middle, but I'm not going to start there. I'm going to start by getting kind of the outline of my flower first. So we're going to start with some organic petals from the outside. These are not, when I draw flowers, I do not have a green thumb. I do not know flowers very well. It's one of my goals in life, actually, is to be able to grow things and keep plants alive. But right now I'm just really busy with other stuff. So someday that is my goal. In the meantime, I draw pretend flowers from my imagination. Or I have to Google them. All right? So there's a flower. we're going to make a different kind of flower over here. This one's going to have, say, round petals. So we got pointy petals and round petals, and we'll fill each one of them with some different patterns. I am being very careful to make sure that my marker starts and ends on that circle. So we don't want it, even though I'm not paying very close attention to like all my petals being the same size, or making them all exactly the same or perfectly symmetrical. One of the things I am making sure of is that my marker, it starts and ends where I want it to end, and it's not real sloppy. Okay, so there's my beginning drawing, and I'm gonna fill all of these with some fun patterns. And what I'll probably do is I'll maybe do 3 or 4 different patterns in here, and then we'll shut off the live video, and I'll post some pictures of my finished artwork. How's that? So you guys don't have to hang around too long and see this. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to play with some of these petals in the center. Let's pick some fun patterns to fill these with, shall we? All right. We're going to do very simple patterns. Let's do, in this petal, let's give ourselves an outline. That's fun. And then we're going to build from the outline in. And if you look at some of these example sheets, you'll see that some of them work better with a border than others. So this one here, we're going to give ourselves a scalloped border. So I'm going to give myself, it's almost like teeth. So we'll just give ourselves a scallop here. This looks like it's got teeth on it. All right, and then let's switch markers. I know I told you I'd show you some new markers, so I'm going to switch out of my Sharpie marker. I'm going to go to that really, really fine point marker. If you don't have one of these, don't worry about it. You can stay with your other one, but I do want to demonstrate this on camera. So this is my extremely fine point micron, and I'm going to make these like little sprouts that sprout up from my scalloped edge, and they sprout inward into the flower. And so they curl up, and I'll show this to the camera a little bit closer so you can see what I'm doing. So they curl up, and these microns, the nice thing about them is, one of the things is they're not bleeding at all. They're thin, and they are easy to control. I dig. If you're trying to draw with them, though, one of the drawbacks with the thin ones is if you have a shaky hand and you're drawing a bigger line or a longer line, boy, it shows every little wobble. So I go with these. These are a little more forgiving when I want to make a nice long straight line. Okay. So see, I've got a very simple pattern fill in there. If I wanted to keep going with this, I could maybe make some teeny tiny leaves on each one of these little sprouty squiggle things. I could emphasize the little hook shape that I've got on the end that's got maybe a little bulb or a little bubble. There I drew some leaves on it. So there's one petal that I could wrap up with. The other thing I could do is on this outside edge of this petal, I could add another design, right? I mean, you can keep building out and in and out and in as much as you want. So, but I'm going to stop with that one. Let's move on to a different one so that way you guys can see something else. This one here, let's work on filling. Let's do this fat one. We'll work on filling this whole one with a pattern. Let's do a scale pattern. So we're going to work outward on a scale pattern. I'm going to go back to this one's not quite as thin, so let's use this one. All right, so outward on a scale pattern. This is like dragon scales is what I want you to think of, right? So I started with the first two, and then I built another row that go from the inside line up, and then it hits the inside line again. It leaves that little point sticking up though, see it? So the next line is going to go from here up and then bisect this one. So let's draw that. Make sure you can see me. So it's going to come straight up and straight down like this. And we'll do another row. Little scale pattern. Now I've got it over here and I'm looking at one. So even though maybe I have this in my brain, every now and then it's nice to look at these pattern sheets so that you've got a reference of what you're trying to achieve. Sometimes it's nice to just have to, not think about it, to just be able to draw. We're going to run this pattern off the page. So it runs right off. You'll notice like this point here is cut off. It's not on there. It got cut off and it filled the whole page. So I could stop here with this scale pattern. I'm going to add just one more little detail to it, and that is a shadow behind each one of these scales. So I'm going to give myself an arc. So there's like a rainbow on each of these scales, and each one of those rainbows is going to get colored in. So that way we've got just a little bit more of some contrast on this particular flower petal. So I'm going to draw all of these, and then I'm going to show it to you on the camera. So once I have all the lines drawn, then I'll get them all colored in. You could do it the other way. You could color and then draw. So it's got a little rainbow that's drawn at the base of each one of the scales. I'm going to switch my pens. I'm going to go back to that itty bitty little skinny one so that I've got good control on it. And I'm going to go ahead and give myself some shading inside that little rainbow shape. Being really careful to make sure I keep it where it's supposed to be. You don't want to end up adding shadows into my other areas. So all of my shadows, let's see here, am I still on camera? Goodness, I get really involved in drawing, you guys. All of my shadows that I'm doing right now, I'm pulling the marker towards me because, like I said, that's where I have the most control. So this motion is a very easy and quick motion, as opposed to shading this direction, which isn't quite as easy on me. You may be different. I don't know. This one's mine. All right. You see it? And again, my shadows are not solid. They're little teeny tiny lines. Okay, so we got one of the petals on this one done. Let's do the center on this one, shall we? That'll be fun. What should we do? Let's do the bubble one. I didn't get to show you that one. I mean, I did it, but I didn't really show you. So let's do that one. So this is my Micron pen. I'm going to grab one here. If you've got a Sharpie, you could do that too. This is a really fun pattern. It uses different size circles. So I'm going to start by drawing my big circles. Some of my big circles run off my page. All right? And you can stop there. It could be it. It could be a really fun kind of Smurf mushroom, that's what it reminds me of, pattern there in the middle. You could do that. Or you can keep going, and I'm going to draw some smaller circles. Now these smaller circles, they touch the big circles. Some of them do, some of them don't. Some of them maybe are floating, but they're just a little bit bigger or a little bit smaller than the other ones. And again, they run off the page. Being really careful not to overlap them. You don't want to overlap them. You just want to put them in there. And then all of that space inside there, we're going to keep drawing circles. They're going to get even smaller. Again, making sure that we're not covering up the circles that we have and trying not to color in any of the areas, which is the hard part actually. You don't want to color in. We just want it to look like it's jammed packed with these little pebbles. If you end up coloring it in with the black, it looks like you've got pebbles floating in outer space. So we're almost done. That's one of my favorite doodle patterns while I'm on the phone, actually, is this fun little pebble drawing. So there's that one. Isn't that fun? All right, we can do a design maybe into one of the petals. Let's do one of those. Let's do... Ooh, I've got a good one. Let's do a zebra stripe. You want to do a zebra stripe? Let's do a zebra stripe in one of these. That'll be fun. So the way I like to do zebra stripes, they come from both sides, and they're just wiggly lines that go up that get filled in. We'll do the big one because that one seems like it would be the best for it. So it's got a wiggly line that comes up, it tapers at the top, and it wiggles back down. I'm going to do a bunch of those that come from this side. Now I want to kind of vary it so they don't all look the same. So some might be fatter, some might be skinnier, some are going to be shorter. Then they're going to wave different directions, which is actually harder than it sounds. It's really easy to make them all wave the same way. So let's get a couple more in here. That one's a nice fat one. Let's do... They're a little shorter as they get towards that peak, right? The two ends of the petal. They can't get too long. Flip my paper over. We're going to go the same thing coming up this direction, only we're going to try to get them kind of in between the other ones so that they don't want to touch or overlap them. One more over here. All right, and then we've got maybe some that float in the middle. So these are ones that instead of starting wide and tapering up to the top, they're going to start wide in the middle and they're going to taper out to the ends. And let me make one of those and then I'll hold it up close to the camera. So there's one of those right there in the middle, right? So it kind of filled in the space. It's got a taper on both ends. So we're going to do that to fill in the rest of this zebra space. Some little floating stripes. If you notice a blank spot, you know, you can go in and fill it in. Just turn your page back again. All right, and then of course the last step is going to be to color these. So we're going to get these all black and white. Making sure to keep that point on there, because I think that, you know, the clean edge and that pointy edge of these stripes is one of the things that makes it look like a zebra instead of just, or a tiger. I don't even know, man. It's been a long time since I probably had a biology class. It looks like a zebra to me. All right. Or like flames. Either one. That's a good time to say that Tangle drawings are usually black and white, but I have seen them in color. So if you'd like to add color to them, you could do this with gel pens. We love jelly pens. Those are fun. And they're really kind of they're satisfying to work with, the way that the gel rolls over the paper. So you could use a gel pen if you wanted to use color. Another way to integrate color would be to do it in Sharpie first in these markers, as long as it's a permanent marker. And then you can use watercolors over the top of it. Or you could use a watercolor pencil if you wanted a little bit more control when you were adding color. Watercolor pencils are great. Colored pencils are great, just like a coloring page. They do make beautiful, beautiful markers. So like a Tombow marker would be great. And then the only other thing I can think of is you can do these Tangle drawings over a colored background. So if you've got an abstract watercolor background that you've already done, you can do a Tangled drawing or a doodle over the top of it. And that's one of the fun things to do with just a sketchbook, is to you know, do a watercolor wash or a fun little background that you're just playing around with, and then do a playful little Tangle drawing over the top of it. So there's our zebra. Isn't that fun? That's a fun little pattern, and that one is on one of the sheets. So if you wanted to look that up, you could. I'll do one more for you, and I think we'll do the one right next to it here. Let's do this one. This one is going to be a very fun cross-hatching. So we did a few organic ones. Let's do a geometric one. So this one's going to use diagonal lines. Move it where you can see it. Sorry about that. And again, I like this motion for my hand, so I'm going to turn my paper so that my hand works in a way that I like it. I'm going to start on the edge and pull down. Start on the edge, pull down. These are parallel lines to each other. Okay, so I got some parallel lines. I'm going to turn my paper. We're going to go, again, on an angle that I find soothing for my hand. Draw, draw. Make sure the pattern runs off the page, even though that line only has a teeny tiny little bit to it. It's an important line to make sure you get in there so that pattern looks like it runs off the shape. Okay? And we're going to do something in the middle of each one of these little crosses. So every time the two lines cross, we're going to draw a flower, and it's a 4-petaled flower, so it's got a teeny tiny little flower. See it? So we'll do that in each one of these, and this will be our final pattern. I love the flower and like leaf organic patterns are probably my favorite. Geometric patterns I don't care for as much, so like the checkerboards and different things, but that is simply just a matter of taste. You know, different people like different things. So some people really love the geometric, the hard edge, the straight lines. And then some people will love the rounded organic type shapes. Did I get them all? Oh, nope, I missed one. One more. Make sure I get them all. Whoops, missed one. It's the ones off the edge that you forget. You need one leaf. All right, here you go. There's our little flower pattern. Okay, and like I said, and I may do this after we turn off the camera, I can do a pattern on the outside of each one of these leaves too, and I may do that. I'll also do a pattern down the stem so that you can see that. And we'll have a fun little flower picture when we're done. So I hope, let me turn my camera up so you can see me, because I feel silly talking and you can't see me. Oh, there you are. All right, well, I hope you have fun. Woo, we're zoomed in. Hang on. Oh, zoom back out. Oh, wait. No, wait, there's not comments. I was like, wait, there's comments. There's not. Never mind. Okay, so anybody have questions before I hit finish button on my live broadcast? I hope you have fun with this. Remember, go to our Pinterest board, and you can Google it too. It's all over, but if you want like a centrally located place to just go and download a bunch, go to our Pinterest board because you'll find a lot just already on there for you. We already did the searching. We might as well have done the legwork for you. And you can download some of these. You can keep them in a 3-ring binder so that you can reference them. You can keep the digital version and just go to the Pinterest board when you want to see it. You don't even have to print them if you don't want to. And then just get to doodling. You can doodle on anything. Don't let it hang you up if you don't have the perfect markers and you don't have the perfect paper. Just have a fun time with it. And if you do make some doodles, we'd love to see them. So you can post them to Instagram or Facebook or Twitter, and just make sure to tag us at Orange Easel Art. That's our Orange Easel Art. All one word. There's a double E in there. Don't miss that. And we'd love to see it. And that way maybe we can share it on our page and kind of show off what you guys are doing. So if you have questions, do them in the comments, or you can also post in the comments pictures of your artwork or any problems that you're having or any great resources that you find. So, all right, guys. Have a wonderful Thursday, and we'll check in with you tomorrow.